Luckily, her parents were already outside when they smelled the smoke. Officials say an electrical problem is to blame.
And now to a story you'll see on just one station. 2 men busted for illegally catching lobsters out of season in South Florida. The men accused of hooking and steering lobsters off the Rickenbacker Causeway, both methods prohibited. Officers say the men caught more than 100 lobsters. And these men have now been arrested. They're facing several charges, including illegal harvesting. Lobster mini season starts in July. And a terrifying day on the job for a South Florida trucker as he's hijacked and taken hostage. The trucker discovered tied up and screaming for help late this afternoon in Wilton Manors. Police say 2 armed suspects dumped the trucker outside a drugstore after stealing his truck yesterday right along I-95, and also stolen all the designer clothing inside his truck. The vehicle was later found cleaned out in Palm Beach County. Police are certainly on the search for those suspects.
Tonight, police say they're on the lookout for a dangerous South Florida inmate who is now on the loose. Officials say the 36-year-old Timothy Jackson escaped from Miami-Dade County Correctional Institute, hidden inside some delivery vehicle. The prison is located just outside of Florida City. Jackson was serving a life sentence for armed robbery, assaults, armed burglaries, and kidnapping. Residents who live nearby say they are now terrified.
Scary. It's really scary, and I stay with my grandmother, and she told us to keep the doors locked, and we're staying close to home, so we won't have to bump into him.
Jackson has escaped from 2 county jails before and was supposed to be under close supervision. He's considered armed and dangerous. In fact, we are told he's considered extremely dangerous. So if you see him, stay away, is what police are saying. Definitely call police or Crime Stoppers immediately at 305-471-TIPS.
And we have breaking news now in the Elian Gonzalez custody case that could involve the young boy going to Washington, D.C.
Craig Stevens is joining us now with the very latest on this. I imagine it would involve Lazaro as well, his great uncle.
From what a source is telling us at this hour, and this all has something to do with why Attorney General Janet Reno is not coming to South Florida tomorrow. A source close to the family is telling us at this hour that Lazaro Gonzalez, Maris Lacis Gonzalez, and Elian will travel to Washington tomorrow for what is being described as a family summit. We are expecting in the next several minutes from Washington a member of Congress, Senator Bob Torricelli from New Jersey, to announce the details of it. Still being worked up, but we understand at this hour the reason the Attorney General will not be traveling here is because the Miami family, a couple of them with Elian in tow, will travel to Washington tomorrow for a family summit. The family had wanted this for some time, an opportunity to be away from the lawyers, to be away from the spokespeople and whatnot, and to sit down as a family and talk about what is best for this little boy. Do not know who specifically will be in attendance at this event, but we can tell you, according to a source, it is slated to happen tomorrow in Washington.
You used the word family summit. Would it be safe to assume, given the usage of that word, that it may involve Juan Miguel as well, the boy's father?
Pardon me if I neglected to mention that. Of course, that is the most central part of this. It is to include the father, and the first time these 2 sides of the family will come together face to face to talk about the welfare and the future of this little boy.
We might be able to get more information on this if we go to Washington. I don't know. Do we have an opportunity to take you to Washington now?
Yes, there's Brian Andrews for us right there. Brian, it would be wonderful if the 2 sides could be there alone, truly alone, but it's hard to imagine that the father wouldn't be with other government officials.
Unclear at this point, but as Craig had just reported, we're now hearing and getting confirmation. Cuban American National Foundation is telling us that Maris Lacis, Lazaro, and Elian Gonzalez are coming to Washington to meet with Juan Miguel Gonzalez here in the D.C. area tomorrow. I'm also being told right now that in exactly 7 minutes, there's going to be a news conference by the Cuban American National Foundation to make that announcement here on Capitol Hill, and we are efforting to bring that tape to you right away as soon as it happens. This latest announcement may explain some of the activity we saw outside the home in Bethesda, Maryland tonight. About 90 minutes ago, we saw the attorney for Juan Miguel Gonzalez, Elian's dad, Greg Craig, show up with an entourage and run into the house. And as far as we know right now, they're still in the house having a meeting. Presumably, they may know about this visit, a visit that is a rather shocking development with the Miami family and Elian coming here to our nation's capital.
As you know, Robert Torricelli is a vocal Castro critic. He's also got some very close ties to the Cuban-American National Foundations. Was he the deal breaker on this thing tonight? Do we know?
Not sure yet. As I said, we're going to find out in a few moments. We've just sent a crew down to the 400 North Capitol spot for the news conference, and we're expecting to hear not only from the Cuban-American National Foundation, but as well as some members of Congress, perhaps that representative.
The reason that would be important is because Robert Torricelli is a Democrat, and he does have close ties with the Clinton administration, unlike many of the Republicans who've been arguing on the other side of this case, Brian. We will continue to follow the story, obviously, and as we get more information, we are going to bring it for you. But the very latest, as you just heard, there is a possibility that all parts of the family will be getting tomorrow in Washington, D.C.
Big developments, and we have a lot more coming your way tonight from the night team, including a massive wildfire burning in the Florida Everglades. We're talking 10,000 acres already scorched, another 10,000 at risk. More details ahead.
Also, some raging floodwaters have been tearing apart homes, the devastation turning deadly. We're going to have that story coming up.
And trouble on the tracks in one part of Florida, the cargo, brand new cars. Details on this ahead.
An elderly South Florida woman dependent on her dog to get around, but her